Resident Evil Requiem be one of the biggest fan service games of the entire series thanks to the many callbacks in the form of boss fights, returning locations, and fan favorite characters, clearly it should be no surprise that the game is also full of fantastic Easter eggs and hidden details to remind us of how incredible this series truly is. So after spending hours and hours looking at every single detail in RE9, I'm here to give you guys as many Easter eggs and hidden information about the franchise's past scattered throughout Rhodes Hill and Raccoon City in Resident Evil Requiem. Before that though, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and also subscribe for future content on Resident Evil 9 and other survival horror games. Finally, this video will feature spoilers, so I highly recommend coming back here after you've completed the game at least once. But with that out of the way, my name is Ruben with Nerdspace Games, and here are 100 hidden Easter eggs in Resident Evil Requiem. Let's get it. Number 1, Grill 14. Fans of the original Resident Evil 3 will know that there's a restaurant that you can visit as Jill called Grill 13. I guess this is the new location after, well, you know. Number 2, Mr. X in Ridwood. There's a few suspicious looking characters in the opening sequence in Ridwood that appear to hint towards different characters within Resident Evil's past. The first one is this man right here who appears to be dressed exactly like Mr. X, but he's actually not the only one in this scene. Number 3, Ethan Winters Easter egg. Not long after we take control of Grace, we eventually walk by another Ridwood citizen, and this time he appears to be dressed just like Ethan Winters, protagonist of Resident Evil 7 and Village. Not only does he have the same jacket and jeans as Ethan does, but he even has a similar long sleeve sweater underneath his jacket. The only difference is the white undershirt. Number 4, Dulvey Beer. On the note of Resident Evil 7 Easter eggs, there's another one that you can find inside of the store windows of Ridwood. Dulvey Beer might sound vaguely familiar, especially to fans of recent entries to the Resident Evil series. That's because the Baker Estate in Resident Evil 7 is actually located in the fictional town of Dulvey, which is located in Louisiana. Since RE7, Dulvey Beer has appeared in other games as well, including Resident Evil 2 Remake. Number 5, Crows in opening sequence. A staple of recent Resident Evil games is the fact that you always find yourself coming across crows that fly away from the scene as you first take control of the game's protagonist. Resident Evil 7 outside of the Baker Estate, Resident Evil 4 Remake before you encounter your first Ganado, and now RE9 as you approach Ridwood Hotel as Grace. Number 6, M. Warren. At the start of the game, there's a file going over 4 previous victims that Grace is investigating when she heads to Ridwood Hotel. There's actually 2 Easter eggs in this one file. The first is M. Warren. This name might sound familiar to you if you know anything about the lore of Resident Evil 2, but the mayor of Raccoon City during the outbreak was Michael Warren. Clearly, the M. Warren reference here in this document is him. Side note, he's also the father of Catherine Warren, the woman that Irons killed and has on his table in the orphanage. Number 7, E. Wilkins. The other Easter egg in this file is E. Wilkins. Since we know that all the victims are survivors of Raccoon City, the first name that comes to mind with this name is Mark Wilkins. He's one of the survivors of the Outbreak games. Obviously, his name doesn't start with the letter E though, but there's another key detail that we know about Mark. He has a son that we don't know the name of, so potentially E. Wilkins could be the son of Mark Wilkins. Age-wise, it does line up. Mark was around 52 years old in the Outbreak game, so 28 years later, based on his age, he could definitely have a son that would be about 51 at this point. Number 8, Alyssa Ashcroft's outfit. Speaking of the Outbreak games, Alyssa's outfit is heavily inspired by her look in the Outbreak games. From the red and white colors to the design itself, it all looks extremely similar despite the events of this game taking place decades after the events of the Outbreak games. Number 9, like mother, like daughter. Alyssa's clothes are not the only Easter egg she has in Requiem that reminds us of her role in the Outbreak games. There's actually a trophy that you can get by unlocking all the locked drawers in Resident Evil Requiem. Doing so will nail you the like mother, like daughter trophy. Why is this trophy an Easter egg? Well, the Outbreak survivors each had their own unique skill in the game, and Alyssa's, as I'm sure you've guessed by now, was lockpicking. She was the master of unlocking, if you will. Number 10, MO disc. The key item that Grace finds inside of her mother's hidden folder is an MO disc. Interesting throwback here, considering the fact that Resident Evil 1 featured multiple MO discs that were used to rescue Jill or Chris, and RE2 featured one that granted access to the final boss of the game. Both of these were used late in the game, and Resident Evil Requiem did the same thing, as Grace was finally able to observe the files on her mother's MO disc at the end of the game just before the final boss fight. This is probably more of an Easter egg specifically to Resident Evil 2, since both this disc and the one in RE2 OG were used just before the final boss fights of their respective games. Number 11, Leon's license plate. Leon's license plate is an Easter egg that we all recognized prior to the release of the game as the red ND-9642. Obviously, we still haven't been able to figure out what the ND stood for, but 9642 is actually an Easter egg that represents every single game that Leon appeared in as one of the main protagonists of the game. Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 6, and Resident Evil Requiem, aka RE9. Number 12, Leon's watch and gun. There's a lot of speculation as to who Leon is married to, thanks to the end scene where we see him putting on a wedding ring, and the concept art even confirms that it's on his wedding finger. However, this next Easter egg might actually hint towards who the wife actually is. If you look at Leon's gun, the Requiem, and his watch, both of these items feature a fallen angel motif. This symbol should feel very familiar, as there's a character in the series that's famous for wearing this symbol on her in Resident Evil 2 Remake. I'm of course referring to Claire Redfield. She wears a necklace that's shaped like an angel's wing, and she also has her Made in Heaven jacket that features angel wings on it. Perhaps these are Easter eggs to Claire since she didn't cameo in the game like we all wanted her to, or perhaps this is Capcom telling us who Leon is married to. Who knows? Number 13, Shadow Ghost book. The first time we take control of Grace and Rhodes Hill, we find ourselves running away from the girl stalker enemy. In one of the rooms, we can find a book titled Shadow Ghost. Considering the amount of Resident Evil Village Easter eggs that are in this game, more on those later by the way, obviously there's a good chance that this book is an Easter egg to the book that Mia, aka Mother Miranda, reads to Rose at the start of the game titled Village of Shadows. Both do have the word shadow in the name after all. Number 14, Village of Shadows, the book. Okay, so in a different Easter egg than the one I just talked about, we actually get the Village of Shadows book in Resident Evil Requiem. When we first find Emily, she's reading a book in her cell that's in Braille. Now, Eagle Eye fans have been able to translate a page from said book, and actually it translates to one of the pages seen in the Village of Shadows book. So yeah, not only is there a nod to this book with the Shadow Ghost book, but Emily herself is reading Village of Shadows as well. Number 15, door animation Easter egg. While Leon waits for Gideon to meet with him in the waiting area, we get a small nod to the original game as we see the camera slowly approach the double doors like it did in the original Resident Evil with the front doors of the Spencer mansion. Number 16, Avernico. Shout out to the iconic Susie Spear Hunter for this next Easter egg, as I literally just saw her post on Twitter moments after I finished editing this video, but I just had to make room for this one when I noticed her find. Anyway, in the bar section of Rhodes Hill, you can actually find a bottle that reads Avernico. Now, this word straight up doesn't seem like much, and it just seems like a made-up word, as it doesn't mean anything in any language. However, if you move 2 letters in the word, A to the end of the word and O in between the R and the N, and guess what you get? Veronica. Could be a strange coincidence, but it's also worth noting that the next rumored Resident Evil game planned to release next year is the highly anticipated Code Veronica remake. Could this be an Easter egg to the next Resident Evil game, or is this just a strange coincidence? You tell me. Number 17, Gideon's ring. If you look closely at Gideon's hand, he's actually wearing a snake-like ring. This symbol is pretty significant with villains of the series, especially in regards to the villains that Leon specifically fights. This includes Derek Simmons and Jack Krauser. Most notably though, the snake ring that Gideon wears looks extremely similar to the snake that is on Krauser's knife. Number 18, Moon, Star, and Sun. Throughout Rhodes Hill, we notice that the symbols Moon, Star, and Sun play a significant part in solving multiple riddles and opening doors throughout the game. However, diving a little deeper into the history of these symbols, they all play a significant part in the original game as well, and its remake. In the original game, you'll need to find 4 crests, Moon, Star, Sun, and Wind, to access the exterior part of the Spencer mansion. Obviously, the Wind isn't used in Rhodes Hill, but the other 3 are used to access the exterior part of Rhodes Hill, like how the original crests were used to reach the exterior part of the Spencer mansion in the original game. Number 19, Unicorn Door. In Requiem, one of the first locked doors that we come across is one that features a unicorn on it. Interesting, considering the fact that one of the first puzzles we solve in Resident Evil 2 requires us to use, you guessed it, a unicorn medal to retrieve the spade key. Number 20, the Analyzer. We all know about the final puzzle and how part of the puzzle requires you to notice the code on the side of the microscope to solve the puzzle. However, did you notice that the Analyzer program itself is an Easter egg? The current version of the Analyzer program reads version 1.21.8991. Reverse the last 4 digits and you get 1.21.1998. If you're a hardcore fan of this series, then you might know that this is the date that the original Resident Evil 2 released in North America, January 21st, 1998. Number 21, Stakeout Takeout Charm. This is a charm that Grace finds in the pantry at Rhodes Hill. While most of the Easter eggs tease things in previous games, this one actually teases something that we saw Grace with at the start of the game. Going back to the first scene featuring Grace, we can see her with Chinese food that looks vaguely similar to this charm she gets later in the game. Nothing big, but something I actually really enjoyed and I found hilarious when I figured this out. Number 2, Blister Heads. Blister Heads is an enemy in Resident Evil Requiem, and it's also an Easter egg in more than one way. Firstly, the more in-your-face Easter egg is the callback to 2002's remake of Resident Evil. That game featured Crimson Heads, reanimated corpses that were essentially super zombies. However, there's another lesser-known Easter egg with Blister Heads. The design of the Blister Head is heavily inspired by a cancelled monster Resident Evil 2 remake called Licker Zombies. Essentially, these zombies would begin the transformation into lickers, but not fully evolve yet. Instead, only their heads and claws would change at first. Sound familiar? Number 23, dolls. Throughout Rhodes Hill, we see a lot of different dolls scattered throughout the care center. Obviously, all of them are connected to the girl stalker enemy, Marie. She collects dolls and adds them to her collection, even in her monster form. This characteristic appears to be a callback to another tragic villain in Resident Evil Village, Donna. Donna has a whole house filled with dolls, and she's connected to them deeply, especially the one called Angie. After her death, you can pick up Angie and examine her, similar to how you can pick up Marie's doll when solving the final puzzle. Number 24, Dimitrescu Wine. On the topic of Resident Evil Village, when exploring the room that acts as an elevator that leads to Gideon's secret lab, we can find this wine bottle. On closer examination, we can see that this wine bottle is the same brand of wine that we collect as a key item in Resident Evil Village. In fact, you can even see Dimitrescu on the label, obviously reminding us of the greatest vampire lady in video games, Lady Dimitrescu herself. Number 25, Mizoil Gas Station. On our way to Raccoon City, Leon passes by a gas station. This gas station should look very familiar as it's Mizoil, the gas station where Leon and Claire meet. Number 26, Leon's Jeep. On the topic of this gas station, there's another Easter egg hidden here. Look closely and you can see Leon's Jeep is still parked there from when he first arrived to the city all those years ago. Number 27, the last Raccoon City Times newspaper. Upon arriving at Raccoon City as Leon, you can find a newspaper that's telling the residents of Raccoon City to escape the city. In that paper, it even says that this is the final paper published by the Raccoon Press. This name might sound familiar as it's the same publishing company that Alyssa Outfit works for during the events of Raccoon City outbreak. Now, I know this might be a stretch, but there's something more here that I think could add to this Easter egg. In the report, it says that the person writing this article is the last reporter left. Well, we only know of one reporter of the Raccoon City Press that 100% survived the events of Raccoon City, Alyssa Outfit. Could this article be something she wrote before leaving the city? Maybe, but regardless, still pretty cool to see the final Raccoon City newspaper before the outbreak wiped out the city. Number 28, Umbrella's Billboards. Umbrella had a huge influence in everything and anything that went on in Raccoon City. It's where most of their research was based out of, and they had control of almost every single leading figure in the city, from the mayor to the chief of police. So it stands to reason that Umbrella would be plastered all over the city on billboards. Looking around Raccoon City as Leon, you can see familiar looking ones and new ones advertising the pharmaceutical company all around the city. Number 29, Applegate Hotel. Okay, so while Applegate Hotel is not a location that has appeared in previous games, it's hard to ignore the similarities that this hotel has with one of the more recognizable locations in the Outbreak games, Apple Inn. Considering the amount of events that occur in this location, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a small nod towards that location by Capcom. Number 30, movie posters. If you remember the subway sections of Resident Evil 3 Remake, you might recognize some of the posters that Leon comes across when navigating the subway. These are the same movie posters that in themselves were Easter eggs to famous movies that Jill comes across in Resident Evil 3 Remake. Number 31, Mikhail's Last Ride. On the topic of returning to areas that Jill visited in Resident Evil 3 Remake, Leon also comes across another familiar scene. One of the areas in the subway that Leon comes across is a derailed train. On closer examination of the area around this train, we now know that this is the same train that Nemesis attacked and Mikhail blew up, sacrificing himself in an effort to stop Nemesis once and for all. Number 32, Stagla Gas Station. The gas station in which Leon retrieves fuel to power the generators in the area is another recognizable location. This is the same gas station that appears in the original Resident Evil 3 where Jill and Carlos are attacked by a horde of zombies. Since this gas station wasn't in the remake and clearly Requiem is going off of the remake timeline, the whole sequence of the gas station blowing up never happened. But it's still cool to see this nod to that location from the original Resident Evil 3. Number 33, Piers Nivans Easter egg. I actually never see anybody talking about this Easter egg, but the BSAA charm that you you find in one of the containers scattered across Raccoon City is actually an Easter egg in honor of Piers Nivans, the protagonist of Resident Evil 6 that tragically sacrificed himself to save Chris Redfield. This BSAA charm has a unique characteristic as it increases the firepower of sniper rifles specifically. Why is this important? Well, Piers Nivans was a talented sniper while he was in the army before joining the BSAA, and when he joined the organization, he became one of the organization's best marksmen. His sniping skills were exceptional, so seeing that there's a BSAA charm that specifically increases the firepower for snipers, yeah, this is clearly a nod to Piers Nivans. Number 34, Motorcycle Sequence. While the motorcycle sequence is easily one of my least favorite moments in Resident Evil Requiem, it didn't take long for me to realize that this was a nod to one of the CGI films, Resident Evil Vendetta. Number 35, the Tanker. From the moment we reach the exterior part of the RPD station, we are given a ton of Easter eggs, so get ready for a lot of them back to back to back. Starting with this one, the tanker that separated Claire and Leon in Resident Evil 2 Remake is still here. Number 36, Arukas. You also have Arukas here, a nod to a character in the Street Fighter franchise as it's Sakura spelled backwards. Number 37, the same exact path. One of the more hilarious Easter eggs in the exterior parts of the RPD station is the fact that the game literally has you take the exact same path that leads you back to the RPD station. From the same alleyway filled with graffiti to the front entrance filled with police cars and school buses. Hell, even the front gate of the RPD station is still locked from when Leon locked it when he first entered the RPD station.
Shit. It's everybody. They've all turned. There it is. The station.
Number 38, the main hall theme. Obviously, you can just buy the original RE2 Raccoon City soundtrack via the deluxe edition, but in some cases, you won't need it. Resident Evil Requiem features two moments in particular that I can think of off the top of my head that uses tracks that are heavily inspired from certain areas in RE2, including the fact that the entire RPD station in Requiem uses a track that's heavily inspired by the main lobby theme in the original Resident Evil 2. Number 39, typewriter and inventory box. As you would expect, a lot of the things are exactly where you left it, including the inventory box and typewriter in the lobby, which was there in Resident Evil 2 Remake. You can even examine the typewriter as well. Nice little touch, Capcom. Number 40, the monitor. Also in the same area as the inventory box and typewriter, you can see a small computer. If you remember the remake, you'll know that this is where you can either see Officer Elliot or Mr. X depending on which run you're doing. Considering the fact that Requiem confirms that Leon's first run is canon now, he probably remembers this monitor as the one where Elliot is calling for help and he fails to save one of his comrades immediately after entering the RPD station. Number 41, Welcome Leon sign. Welcome Leon sign returns in Resident Evil Requiem, although it's not in the same location as before this time. It's in the main lobby. I wonder why someone moved it. Let's be real though, it seems like something Gideon will do. On that note, both L's are missing this time. One can be found on the floor just before where the sign was at originally, and the other can be found on one of the desks, an Easter egg of Resident Evil 2 Remake where Capcom made fun of themselves for their mistake in the original RE2 in which welcome was spelled with 2 L's instead of 1. Classic. Number 42, you can't save anyone. Leon finds a note after arriving at the RPD station that reads, "You can't save anyone." While this is obviously Gideon or Xeno teasing Leon, this is also an Easter egg. In Resident Evil 4 Remake, Krauser says almost the exact same thing to Leon before their fight.
You can't save her. You can't save anyone.
Number 43, Weird Puzzle. Throughout the RPD station, Leon can examine some of the statues that feature puzzles he had to solve in order to access a secret pathway under the RPD station. All the puzzles are actually locked on the same solution used to solve them in the remake, but another cool fact is that Leon even calls out the weirdness of the puzzle when examining the lion statue. Number 44, Leon's desk. You can find Leon's nameplate on his desk, the same one in which Leon needed to solve a puzzle to access a new part for his gun in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Number 45, Salute to Marvin. Speaking of nameplates, when examining Marvin's nameplate, Leon can actually salute it and say something that quite honestly made me tear up when I first heard it. Number 46, Leon's party plans. While we know there was a party plan for Leon in Resident Evil 2 Remake because of the whole Welcome Leon sign, the original game has Marvin specifically mentioned that his party has now been cancelled. Well, in Requiem, we can find a file that goes over the exact details and plans that Marvin had in store for Leon's welcome party, and man, it's kinda pretty depressing to think about. Seriously, Requiem really hit us in the feels with the details just like this one, and I'm just getting started. Number 47, Vending Machine Zombie. There's actually a couple of zombie Easter eggs in the RPD station, including this one right here of a zombie attacking a vending machine. You might remember this scene from Resident Evil 2 Remake, right? Number 48, Jawless Zombie Corpse. Also in Resident Evil 2 Remake, we come across a hallway that features a corpse that's literally missing its jaw. That same corpse can be found in Requiem while exploring the RPD station 28 years later. Number 49, Tofu Silhouette. Outside of the room where you find JoJo's key, which we'll get to in just a moment, don't worry, you'll see a silhouette that looks extremely similar to Tofu from Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 2 Remake. But there's something a little bit more interesting than that in the next entry, so let's get to that one. Number 50, the real Tofu. The silhouette of Tofu isn't the only thing we come across. We literally get to see the Tofu. Yeah, Tofu is officially canon, I guess, and Leon can even interact with him in a way. After coming back downstairs and going back to the same hallway that leads to the area where we see his silhouette, we can see Tofu bouncing around and spying on Leon. Leon can even shoot Tofu, and when he does, he loses pieces like he did in the remake when he gets hurt, and he even does his iconic voice, by the way. Number 51, Barry's Scavenger Hunt. Most of the STARS members get Easter eggs in various ways, but Barry's might be the most interactive of the bunch. Not only does he have 2 Easter eggs, but one of them comes in the form of a scavenger hunt around the RPD station that ultimately leads to JoJo's locker. Again, more on that one later. Number 52, Barry's to-do list. There's a few small Easter eggs in this file. First off, we get to see that Jill is shot out here, showcasing a little more of Barry's and Jill's relationship. I think the cool thing here is just seeing how close Barry was to his fellow officers in the RPD station, not just the STARS. Number 53, Raccoon City Zoo tickets. Barry's scavenger hunt leads to JoJo's locker, which that in itself is an Easter egg to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but not the point. Instead, opening the locker reveals multiple Easter eggs, including tickets to the Raccoon City Zoo. This is another Outbreak Easter egg, as it's one of the locations we visit in file number 2 during the Wild Things scenario. Number 54, Capcom Games. Speaking of Easter eggs inside of JoJo's locker, at the bottom of the locker is another shocking one. There's a console, and next to it are Capcom Games, including the original Resident Evil. Does this make Resident Evil the game canon to the universe of Resident Evil? Obviously not, but still a funny thing to laugh about for sure. Number 55, Green Herb sticker. The STARS office is filled with Easter eggs, including a sticker in the locker of a green herb. Nice. Number 56, Mr. Raccoon Red Bases. Also in the STARS office, and actually in other areas too, you can find the red bases of the original Mr. Raccoon statues that we destroyed in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Number 57, STARS photo. Behind Wesker's desk, you'll find the original RE1 photo of the STARS theme. In fact, upon examining the photo, Leon will even comment on the photo itself. Number 58, Jill's beret. Just like Resident Evil 2 Remake, a lot of the Easter eggs connected to STARS are still present here, including Jill's beret that she wore in the original and remake of Resident Evil. Number 59, Jill's friend. Also on Jill's desk, we see a picture of her dog, a golden retriever. Sadly, we don't know her pup's name, nor do we ever see or hear about this dog throughout the series. Rumors say that apparently Chris Redfield got her this as a gift, but I don't know about that. We don't even know the dog's name, it just reads Jill's friend. Number 60, Made in Heaven jacket. Chris's Made in Heaven jacket is still there as well, the same one used as an alternate costume for Chris in the original Resident Evil. Number 61, Rebecca's medical bag. The bag in the corner is Rebecca's medical bag, a bag that originally carried a first aid spray in both RE2 and RE3 Remake. Unfortunately, nothing this time around. Side note though, you know it's her bag because she actually wears it in Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1. Number 62, Library Card. The library card can be found on Wesker's desk. This card is actually an Easter egg as it features multiple different characters from Resident Evil lore. Obviously, Wesker is on it, but we also see Rita Phillips, a survivor of one of the outbreak scenarios, Elliot Edward, the officer that literally got split in half, and Kashima, which might be an Easter egg to a weapon used in the bonus game of Resident Evil 3 Remake, Resident Evil Resistance. Number 63, Medicinal Benefits of Herbs book. This is the book that we find in the library, which features a certain photo, more on that later, but it's also an Easter egg as well. See, the book appears in Resident Evil 2 Remake as the book that explains the uses of herbs in that game and how they can then be combined with each other for different effects. This book might also be an Easter egg to all the different files similar to it in classic Resident Evil games like the Botany book and Resident Evil Remake. Number 64, Rebecca photo. Well, I can't say that I'm surprised to see that one of the Easter eggs in this game is the return of the creepy obsession that Wesker apparently has with Rebecca Chambers. Yeah, the famous basketball photo of Rebecca is in Requiem, hidden in a book that I just mentioned in the last entry. Number 65, Wesker Shades. On the note of Rebecca's photo, there's a phrase on her picture that reads Rising Rookie Rebecca. This gives us the code RRR to Wesker's suitcase in the Star's Armory, and inside of that case is a Wesker Easter egg in the form of a sunglasses charm. Because we all know that Wesker loves his sunglasses indoors and at nighttime, am I right? Number 66, the jack in the library. Interesting thing to note here is that this is the same jack we used to move the bookshelves in the library to create a pathway to the clock tower, the RPD station in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Number 67, Chloe's gameplay. Funny enough, the entire sequence where we play as Chloe is honestly one big Easter egg. This of course goes back to Resident Evil 2 Remake, in which we must do a stealth section as young Sherry Birkin attempting to escape the Raccoon City orphanage. Well, Chloe's doing this same exact thing here, except that she's trying to escape from a bunch of creepy red-eye little girls instead of Chief Irons. Sherry even brings up the comparisons between Grace and herself at different points in the story to Leon while he's looking for her in Raccoon City. Number 68, Giant Alligator. By the main entrance of the orphanage, there's a bunch of toys all around the area. Well, I don't think I have to point out how many times we see a raccoon stuffed animal teasing Raccoon City. Obviously, throughout most of the game, there is a different stuffed animal that caught my attention in this scene here. In the corner of the mat on the ground, we see a giant alligator. This is probably an Easter egg to the giant alligator that we fight as Leon in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Well, fight as in we run from the alligator and then shoot it once to blow it up in the sewers. Number 69, Hope. At the end of the game, you have to make a choice. Either you release Elpis or you destroy it. Well, clearly the canon ending is to release Elpis, and the password to release it is Hope. Now, I'm sure this wasn't intentional at all, as Elpis is literally the goddess of hope and all that was left inside of Pandora's box when it was open. However, considering the deep connection that RE9 has to the Outbreak games, it's hard to ignore the fact that Hope is also the password for something in the below freezing point scenario of the first Outbreak game. Number 70, Hatch Key. This one is kind of boring, but the hatch key that you find in the orphanage as Chloe is the exact same set of keys that you get from Irons as Sherry. Reason I bring this up is because Irons doesn't take over the orphanage until after he becomes a cop in 1996, whereas this sequence takes place in 1990. So I guess Irons didn't do too much to change up the set of keys when he took over, now did he? Number 71, quoting Wesker. While it doesn't take a genius to realize that Xeno has a lot of similarities to Resident Evil's most iconic villain, Albert Wesker, I will say in this scene right here, he also moves like Wesker. However, listening to his words exactly, we can kind of hear him sound like Wesker as he quotes something that Wesker specifically says in Resident Evil 5, and you guys can guess what I'm probably talking about. That's right, his iconic 7-minute quote in Resident Evil 5. Play the clip.
What the? Mr. Kennedy, I had a feeling you'd make an appearance. Sorry, but I don't have time to spare.
7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
Number 72, Mr. X Easter Egg number 1. Mr. X 2.0 creates a lot of Easter eggs connected to his predecessor from Resident Evil 2 and RE2 Remake. The first is his entrance. It's a nod to the way he enters the RPD station in the original Resident Evil 2. Number 73, Mr. X Easter Egg number 2. His mannerisms and actions are an Easter egg too. Specifically, this sequence of him punching his hands as he walks towards us is something he does a lot when chasing us in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Number 74, Mr. X Easter Egg number 3. The third Easter egg that I want to mention is this scene right here. At this point, he attacks us with the tail of a helicopter that crashed into the RPD station. What's interesting here is that the first time we saw Mr. X in the remake, he was lifting up this same chopper to reveal himself. Number 75, Damnation Easter Egg. This is actually another Mr. X Easter egg, although it connects to the CGI film Resident Evil Damnation. During the boss fight with Super Tyrant in the parking lot just outside of Kendo's gun shop, Mr. X is actually able to perform a very unique attack animation. This attack punches Leon into the air and then tosses him into a car. If you've seen the CGI films, you'll know that this exact attack happens in Damnation, in which a Super Tyrant tosses Leon into a pillar after punching him up into the air. Number 76, Cute Bear Charm. We might not have Ada in Resident Evil Requiem, but we did get an Easter egg for her. After escaping the RPD station, we can enter the parking garage, the first place we met Ada Wong in Resident Evil 2. In that parking garage, there's a charm with a cute bear on it. This is actually an Easter egg to Resident Evil 4 Remake, as the jet ski keys that Ada gives to Leon at the end of the game has this same exact keychain on it. He even calls it cute. Number 77, Kendo's shotgun. After arriving at Kendo's gun shop and experiencing one of the most traumatic flashbacks ever, we can find a few Easter eggs in that same room. First, you can find Kendo's pump action shotgun behind the door. What's sad about this is that there's no bullets in it, as Kendo used it to kill his daughter before she, well, fully changed. God, you know, Resident Evil is actually one of the more tragic games now that I start thinking about on everything that's happened in the series. Number 78, Toy Uncle. Another Easter egg in this room is the Toy Uncle figurine in the corner. Well, the torso of it. The head is missing and is on the basketball court just outside. Toy Uncle is a toy store that Jill comes across in Resident Evil 3 Remake, and she even has to outrun a giant Toy Uncle bobblehead at one point. So yeah, clear Easter egg to RE3 Remake. Also part of the final puzzle, but that's a different topic for a different video. Number 79, 1998 letters, George Scott. The 1998 Raccoon City Letters is a deluxe edition add-on that adds files scattered throughout Raccoon City that follows a young girl named Meryl. More on her later. There's another Easter egg in this file that I want to talk about first though, and that's the officer she keeps mentioning in the files, Mr. George. Upon research, George Scott is an officer that we can actually learn about in both the original and the remake of Resident Evil 2. In the original, he's the cop that has his neck slashed in the bunk bedroom. Either way, the George we read about in Merle's files are indeed the same George Scott we've encountered in both the original and the remake of Resident Evil 2, and we've actually seen files regarding this character in those games. Number 80, 1998, Meryl Branagh. Well, I don't think I have to say much here, but man, the ending of Merle's story was heartbreaking. Learning that she was the daughter of Marvin and that the entire story was telling us the fate of his own daughter was absolutely horrifying, and while it's definitely an Easter egg, it's arguably the most tragic one of all. Number 81, Plant 43. The boss at the entrance of Ark is an Easter egg to the giant plant we encountered in Nest in Resident Evil 2 Remake. With that being said, research shows that while both plants share the same name, Plant 43, they are actually two different plants. Still, Plant 43 in Requiem was a nice little Easter egg to the original Resident Evil 2, an enemy that we didn't get to fight in that game, but finally got to fight 28 years later. Number 82, Tricell And H.C.F. Upon entering Ark, there's multiple containers that tease different enemies we've encountered throughout the franchise. Tricell, for example, is the evil pharmaceutical company that Wesker teams up with in Resident Evil 5. HCF is another organization that's appeared multiple times, but most notably in Code Veronica, as it was their team led by, again, Wesker, that attacked Rockford Island, which ultimately set Claire free and filled the island with zombies and monsters around every corner. Number 83, BOWs for sale. Just before the fight against Hunk, Leon comes across a room that goes over the fact that the connections are selling BOWs created in RE2 buyers around the world. We get to see their prices and even get to see that each of them are advanced versions of original creatures from the Raccoon City outbreak days. However, one file has the Nemesis parasite on it. At the time, we probably didn't know the importance here, but clearly this was Capcom teasing a boss fight against Nemesis, since every other enemy on this list we fought at some point in Requiem. So, I see what you did there, Capcom. Nice pull there. Number 84, Hunk's finishing move. If you're like me and you died multiple times against Hunk your first time fighting him, you might recognize his finishing move that kills Leon. This attack is actually an Easter egg to his finishing move in the Mercenaries mode of both Resident Evil 4 and RE4 Remake. The damn guy even does the weird stance that he does after he breaks our neck. Fuck you, man. Thank you for killing me so many damn times. Go to hell. Just kidding. I love you, Hunk. Guys, all you Hunk lovers out there, please don't crucify me. Number 85, Hunk has Raccoon City Syndrome. Yeah, so I don't know if I would call this an Easter egg or just a very interesting detail, but looking at Hunk's body, you might notice something similar on his hand. He has the same marks that Leon does, which means he's suffering from something similar to Raccoon City Syndrome, just like Leon is. I mean, he is a survivor of Raccoon City, so I guess this does kind of make sense. Number 86, Hunk's survival. Another interesting detail that's not really an Easter egg is the fact that Hunk's body disappears after you leave the room. After leaving, making your way upstairs, and then returning, you'll notice that his body is just gone, but the blood from him is still there. This was clearly intentional, confirming that Hunk is still alive and well. I mean, after all, Hunk stands for Human Unit Never Killed. Number 87, Mortal Blade. After defeating Hunk, you get his weapon. Between the name of the blade and the fact that the description talks about it being the instrument of death, yeah, there's a lot of nods to Hunk's persona, the Grim Reaper, with this weapon. Number 88, more Resident Evil 2 music. Like when we enter the RPD station, the disposal plant in Ark also features a track inspired by Resident Evil 2's soundtrack when Leon is talking about why he does what he does.
When it all happened, I couldn't make a difference. So I am here now.
We can't stop Zeno.
Number 89, Whatever It Takes, Count Me In. Remember when Leon begins to go and fight Zeno on his own to destroy Elpis, but changes his mind and lets Grace help him instead? Well, there might be a deeper meaning for this moment. Grace convinces him to allow her to help him with this line.
No, you're not.
I don't want any more regrets. Whatever it takes, count me in.
Looking at Leon's past, there is something that he said himself when he was first introduced to this dark world, and he said this to Ada Wong in Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Whatever it takes to save this city. Count me in.
Number 90, Like a Million Bucks. We're about to go back to back with quotes from Leon that connect to his past. This time we're looking at this quote right here.
Are you okay?
Me? I feel like $1 million.
This quote is a throwback to another one when Ashley removes the parasite from him in OG RE4. Ironically, both sequences involve him being infected with something.
Like $1 million.
Number 91, Mother Miranda Portrait. Just before the final boss fight, Grace will come across a room with some notable Easter eggs, one of which is this portrait right here of Mother Miranda potentially holding Eva as she overlooks the same area where the village is located in Resident Evil Village. You even have the letter M on the portrait. Number 92, Spencer's wheelchair. In his dying days, you can see Spencer constantly in a wheelchair. In his study here, we see that same wheelchair that Spencer was on during his interview with Alyssa Ashcroft in the big reveal moment of the game. Number 93, Patrick the Butler. The letter from Patrick, Spencer's butler, is an interesting Easter egg, as this isn't the first time we heard from Patrick. In the Lost in Nightmares DLC of Resident Evil 5, we learned that Spencer ordered Patrick to leak his location to Wesker. Now we see that around the same time Patrick reached out to Alyssa with Spencer's final will regarding Grace. Yeah, clearly Spencer wanted to die by Wesker, and Patrick was the one that set things up for Spencer to happen in the way that he planned, and this Easter egg just confirms it for me. Number 94, Resting My Eyes. Here's another Easter egg to Leon's past. This time, it's something that Ada said to him when he protected her from Simmons.
Hey, you. I was just resting my eyes.
I was just resting my eyes.
Shouldn't sleep on the job.
Number 95, The Imitation. Not really an Easter egg, but a moment that is very easy to miss if you're not paying attention to when Gideon confronts Zeno about Elpis. During this final confrontation between the two, Gideon calls Zeno nothing but an imitation. Obviously, a lot of us are assuming that Zeno is a clone of Wesker, but we haven't received any official confirmation of this yet. However, Gideon's insult here definitely makes that theory a lot more possible.
You are nothing but an imitation.
Number 96, Killing Nemesis. The final boss fight against Nemesis ends with Leon grabbing his Requiem and killing him with it. Considering the Requiem is basically a magnum, this sequence might remind you of another moment in the series with Jill Valentine. Specifically, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. In that original game, Jill has her "You want stars" moment before finishing off Nemesis with, you guessed it, a magnum.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
Number 97, Grace's Report. So Grace's Report is basically one big Easter egg, as it throws a lot of familiar plot points and terms at us that we haven't heard throughout the series in a very long time. I think the biggest takeaways here though is the fact that the Connections was founded long before the events of Raccoon City, and Brandon Bailey, the individual rumored to be the founder of the Connections, isn't actually the one that created the company, and he was just another executive for the company. It gets deeper with multiple connections, pun intended, to different moments of the series, including the fact that the Connections had control over the Family, the secret organization responsible for killing the president in Resident Evil 6. Safe to say, this file is a must-read as it retcons some extremely important parts of Resident Evil while also making sense of some of the biggest and most confusing parts of the series so far. Number 98, DSO Costume. Real quick, obviously there's a lot of alternate costumes and most of them are clearly inspired by other Resident Evil games. However, the ones I want to focus on for Easter eggs in this video are the ones that connects to the movies and shows. In the case of Leon's CSO costume, this is inspired by his look in Infinite Darkness, the CGI TV show. Number 99, Grace's Apocalypse costume. For Grace, I want to talk about her pre-order bonus outfit, the Apocalypse costume. This one specifically is inspired by the Anderson live-action films. I'm of course looking at Alice from Resident Evil Extinction. It goes farther than that though. Another Easter egg with Grace having an Alice costume connects her to her mother again, in which Alyssa had a red dress that was inspired by Alice from Anderson's first film as an alternate costume for Alyssa. Again, mother like daughter, I guess. Number 100, Leon and Claire charms. While the charms of Resident Evil Requiem clearly tease certain moments or characters throughout the series, most of them are not physically the character themselves. However, there's two exceptions, the Leon charm and the Claire charm. Something more interesting about this is that the Leon charm is for Grace, but the Claire charm is for Leon. Wonder what that's about. Well, that's it for this episode of Nerdspace Games. Hit up the comments and let me know what you think about my list. Which Easter egg did you find to be the most interesting, and how many of these did you miss while playing through Resident Evil Requiem? Also, don't forget to hit up the comments and let me know about any that I completely forgot about, because I know that's very, very possible. Anyway, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more survival horror content. Also, leave a like on today's video if you enjoyed today's topic. Well, thanks for watching, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the next episode of Nerdspace Games. Take care.